Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the
Oh,
P-LotPodcast. We had some technical difficulties. I suspect it was due to, I guess, needing to plug my
Elon.
up.
No,
It could
kidding.
be Elon. So why don't we see? Let's speak of Elon. Let's see if we can link back up to our to the Twitters and see if this will work.
That'd be nice. Caught me
Uh,
off guard. I was not
no,
ready.
no. I
No.
need to. I need the check mark to it to for that to work. That's great.
Not right. Not right.
Yeah. But luckily we are live. Welcome back, everybody. It is week one of the NFL. We had two games earlier a few days ago,
Yeah.
and we're going to discuss that. We're also going to do our weekly roundup of the Philadelphia Phillies.
Mm.
Much better than in previous weeks, or I would definitely say.
Oh yeah. Things are looking up, John. I have to say. Things are
Yeah, and
things
today
are good early September.
lost in the week one NFL sauce is going to be the major league debut of one of the players they acquired at the trade deadline, Seth
Yeah.
Johnson,
Yeah.
and then we'll end the show with the fourth annual picks, our week one
What?
picks. You're 2-0 because you picked the Eagles and the Chiefs, and I'm 1-1 because I picked the Packers, and that
Which,
was
by the way, you got that at 2.5. It was awfully close. If the Eagles didn't get a field goal in that last drive and just kind of
well.
stalled out and
I
held.
honestly, dude, I thought they would have tried to push it again, and then it would have been stopped, and then they
Well,
would.
after the fumble, it was a bit of a disaster. All right, so where do you want to start today, John? Where do you want to start?
Well, first, I want to before we jump into anything, I want to play a short clip for Fired Up Sports that we
Yes.
normally do for the beginning, but because of the technical difficulty, I couldn't have it begin our program today. And I'm just going to play this to promote all the shows that we're associated with, and and just it'll give you a link on where to find that.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
Okay,
There you
and
go.
there's that. And yeah, we're into. So, Michael, let's start off talking about the Baltimore Ravens Kansas City Chiefs game that kicked off the NFL season.
Very good one.
So, a lot of takes after that game about that game, but I like the over. It hit the Vegas over, but I saw you hit a parlay where
It hit my
it
it hit my
47
greasy
and a half
under,
under,
a
which
greasy
wow,
under by a half
you
point.
you must have been you must have had the meat sweats.
John, I was celebrating like I was the defensive back out there. I was waving my hands, incomplete. I was very, very happy. The last leg of the little same game for that day, under 47.5 points, just snuck under that line with 47 total points. How about that? Isn't that exciting? By a toe, nonetheless, of Isaiah Likely. Now, I forget because it's been a little while, but I want do you remember ah, haha, pat myself on the back here. We had our little fantasy football,
Yeah,
show
I remember.
a handful of weeks ago. My one of my likes, are one Isaiah Likely in the tight end spot, had quite a pretty day. I said that, Mark Andrews obviously coming off an injury, but even when he did play in their playoff game last year, Isaiah Likely was still kind of the focal point. I thought he looked good, and I thought that if not right out the gate or whatever, if Andrews was a bit sluggish, that Likely would, you know, be able to perform and step into his place, and he had, what, 9 catches, 110 yards, a score, and about a toe away from a 10th catch and a second score. So, yeah, Isaiah Likely coming out the gates hot, played a fantastic game. That Ravens-Chiefs game, I think it was a very good game, one of the better ones we've seen, and to open up the season. I know last year's was good, but I don't know. This game just it felt better. I think this game though, while it was good, it seemed pretty like par for the course of these two teams. Like some good defense, um, you know, big plays, you know, not a ton of big plays, but like enough big plays to kind of, get everyone's juices flowing. Mahomes looked good, did his thing. Lamar looked very, very good, did his thing, but nonetheless, like Lamar comes up just short, potentially on the back of, his not so strong supporting cast in the receiving game, and they lose. And, it just feels like how almost every Ravens Chiefs game has gone. Um, Even down to the refs being a little more, I think, favorable towards Kansas City, which is nothing new at this point. It's what happens with every dynasty, as annoying as it is, because I really
Every dynasty in every sport, Michael.
yeah, every dynasty, and it just feels so much more jarring in football because it's always a few plays where you're like, "Jesus, it only gets called for the Chiefs," that sort of thing. But I will say, like, it's one of those things where I don't think they need it, and they always just get the added support. They were calling those penalties on Ronnie Stanley for not lining up on the line of scrimmage. They somehow pushed through that first drive adversity of getting 3 of those penalties and still scored a touchdown anyways. Um, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was a very good game. I was highly entertained. I thought Mahomes and Lamar both played excellently. Lamar even down to the final throw, which was an absolute dime after kind of running around in the pocket for a second. That happened to be a half an inch away from, well, wouldn't have tied the game. Would have been either they lose going for 2 or they win going for 2 and getting it. So, yeah, truly, definitely a classic to start the year. It's a real tough one to lose as a Ravens fan, but you know, there's no moral victories at this point if you're a Ravens fan because you've been good enough at this point. You haven't been able to get over the hump. You're not really in a position of like, but we played well. Like that's the expectation is to play well. You got to get wins. So
Yeah, first drive, Derrick Henry scores the first touchdown in the NFL season.
hmm
Thought it was pretty fitting. That's going to be a pretty good trivia question. Who scored the first touchdown in the 2024 NFL season?
yeah,
Yeah, I thought that because you mentioned defense for both teams. I think this Ravens defense this year is going to be worse than last year's because number one, the Ravens defense last year was arguably the best defense in the National Football League. Number two, that they lost guys on defense, right? Patrick Queen, obviously, and Geno Stone. Uh, Two of them guys that just played out of their minds last year, despite not really being good football players, outside of 2023, if we're being
yeah.
completely honest.
They lost a lot defense and I mean they lost they have 3 new offensive linemen. It's definitely a new Ravens team.
And they need, and they need to, and you need time to gel.
Mhm.
And that's like not to like the Ravens have been good at replacing guys, but dude, it's just hard to just
Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you're due for, a year where not all the pieces click right away. And, you mentioned Derrick Henry on the first drive being involved and how
like they lost like Ronald Darby last year played out of his mind for the Ravens. He's
Mhm,
now on the Jaguars. He's reunited with
mhm,
Doug, right?
mhm. Yeah,
Patrick Queen is now with the Steelers.
right.
Um, Rock Yassin was also on the Ravens. I mean, they also lost Kevin Zeitler, who pretty solid pro.
Yeah, no,
Um,
listen, they lost a lot, and it's gonna take some time to, I think, kinda get their run game back. My biggest, what stood out, I would say, the most is just the way Lamar ran in that game, where that can't be.
Well, he had to.
I know he had to, here's my thing. I think in big games, they are going to kinda just let him if he needs to run, he's gonna run. He was stated how he felt overweight last year and how he lost weight and he feels lighter, and he was like, "If I was built like this and felt like this during the playoffs, we wouldn't have lost," that sort of thing. It's a long season, it's only week 1. He can't he can't be regularly running like that, 16 rushes for over 100 yards. I think it was like 12 or 13 of them, the runs went for 5 or more yards for him. Like, he was truly a weapon, dynamic, and what mostly it wasn't a ton of designed runs, it was a lot of just good scrambles, creative scrambles, but, like, if you want him to last for a full season, I mean, you just can't do that, and I know, it was a big game, it was week 1, you have a long time off before your next game playing on, the Thursday to open it up, so it's fine, but, if he's getting, like, 12 to, 16 rushes a game, I just feel like, we're gonna be in November and Lamar's gonna have like an injury or 2, banged up, and now you're in the playoffs and he can't run the same way, and you remove that element from your offense and the Ravens, early exit, that sort of thing. So, I think in big games, they're gonna kinda let him loose, let him off the leash and let him run around and be super dynamic with his legs as well as his arm. But I think when you're playing, you know, if the game's not as big, out of conference opponent, bottom feeder team, run when you have to, but try to really urge him to not, because if he's at that high of rush totals, it wasn't that he was running a lot too either. He was taking beatings. Like, he was getting hit hard on his runs. He wasn't sliding. He wasn't getting out of bounds a ton. He was lowering the shoulder. He was taking smacks from all angles. They were hitting him hard. So, like, it was 16 rushes, and it felt like 10 of them he was getting put down with force. And I just, for his sake, for the Ravens' sake, I don't think that is very sustainable for the entire season. He just won't make it.
Yeah, I agree. I have a couple takes on the Ravens offense.
Please.
So I don't think I know Todd Monken is a better play caller and play designer than Greg Roman was.
Mhm.
But that's not saying a whole lot, because I don't think Todd Monken really has a great scheme, nor do I think he is really creative with this play calling. Like,
Mhm.
another criticism, which kind of goes into my point, is that, dude, their receivers aren't good.
No, there are a bunch of fine excuse me, fine receivers that are given more responsibility than I think they can handle.
Well, no,
Like,
it's honestly like their receivers are
don't
kind of
say what you're gonna say.
they're kind of like they're literally are the Eagles of like the early to mid 2000s, but like when they did
Okay, okay. I
well.
thought you were gonna drop some, 2019 receiving core on
No,
them.
they're not as nowhere near as they're
Yeah,
bad.
that I was gonna say,
No, but
don't do that to them.
it's like, oh, Todd Pinkston's not horrible, you know? Like everyone says,
Yeah,
he wasn't horrible, but he was just mediocre at best. And or I even would say there it's kind of reminds me of like when they had like Eagles had like Dante Stallworth, who was a solid receiver. That's kind of what Zay Flowers is. Zay Flowers is a solid receiver, but they were just using him on so many screens and
it's like Zay Flowers, I think, is solid. Oh,
I'm here.
okay. Is solid, but I think he's limited. Like, he's fast and whatever, but I don't know. Eh, the he's just not he's just not a number 1 guy, and they want him to be a number 1 guy, and it's not what he is.
He's undersized. He's 5'9", 175 pounds. He's not like Tyreek Hill, where he's this like super incredible, insane athletic monster. Where
Mhm,
it's like you're like, well, on the other side of this game, Xavier Worthy is like an athletic freak, and
mhm,
you just basically see the contrast of like Andy Reid's play designs versus like the Ravens plays designs, right?
yeah. It's
And
like the Chiefs' receiving core last year was obviously pretty piss poor, one of the worst in the league. You had Travis Kelce, who, we view as a bit past his days, and just awfulness at
well,
the receiver position.
I mentioned before patting myself on the back. I said I was going to say Kyle Hamilton's going to put Travis Kelce in timeout, and he pretty much did for the most
Yeah,
part.
Kyle Hamilton is very, very good. Yeah, but the Ravens receiving core, it's not as bad as what the Chiefs was last year, but I think they need to be utilized in a similar fashion. Like you have, whatever you have left of Mark Andrews and then Isaiah Likely as two, I say, strong tight ends, a strong little duo. Obviously, your strength is your running game, barring your offensive line being bad, but that's kind of where the talent
Well,
lies.
that's the problem with the Ravens. Kind of the running back depth is like I understand. Like Derek Henry is at the end of his career. You're
Mhm.
not going to give him the ball 30 times a game,
No, he just can't handle it.
especially on week one. But then you look at their depth, like Justice Hill, just
Hmm.
like Kenny Gainwell, essentially,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Keaton Mitchell is still recovering from a serious injury.
Hmm.
When he had reps last year, he was really dynamic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we don't you don't know if he's going to be if he needs another year to get back under to get that explosiveness back, right?
Yeah.
I just think that the Ravens are going to have a tough time winning this division, and we're going to get into it in the picks.
Yeah, I
But
I agree. They it just feels like a due for regression kind of year, especially if they're gonna push Lamar like this. I just think he's going to be
if they win 12 games, like Lamar should probably be the MVP again. Just the way that's the way I look at it.
yeah, I mean, if he's gonna be running the ball this damn much, I guess he's gonna have a case. But yeah, I the biggest takeaway was definitely that sort of thing. Also, I saw, uh, influence of the pod, I guess you could call him, Theo Ash, did some breakdowns on the Ravens linebacker play. The linebacker playing next to Roquan Smith, I'm totally drawing blank on both of their names at this point. Anyways, one of them was good, one of them was bad. Simple as that. And the bad one played a lot of snaps, or not even a ton, played like 15 or so snaps, but of the 15 snaps, it
The
was
Kyle
like,
Van Noy,
no, no. Although he did point out that he should probably be playing less as well. Um, I'll pull it up. Ravens depth chart. So it was Malik Harrison. When Malik Harrison was on the field, things were egregious. And when Trenton Simpson was on the field, things were significantly more fine. He actually did a pretty cool play breakdown if you go on his TikTok or whatever. It was the end around touchdown that Xavier Worthy scored on. The side that Xavier Worthy started on is the side that Malik Harrison was on. And obviously, the Chiefs, they ran a little fake handoff to the end around. Xavier Worthy got his shoulders squared, went untouched with a barrage of Chiefs linemen into the end zone very easily. The linebacker, Malik Harrison, was on that side that Xavier Worthy started on. Ball gets snapped. There's the action. He like sprints up to the line of scrimmage, totally gets drawn in by the fake. No sort of reaction in that regard. Chasing down Xavier Worthy on the other side of the field. if he doesn't take, like, 3 steps up on the fake, has a chance to maybe bring him down for, like, a 9-yard gain, 10-yard gain, which obviously still is a 10-yard gain, but it's not a 20-yard touchdown. And then where he pointed this, where he made this connection, he's like, "Look at how Drew Tranquill plays it for the Chiefs," because the Ravens, right after, like, soon after in the second quarter, they ran a very similar style of play and end around with, Zay Flowers. Drew Tranquill takes about a step and a half up instead of 3 steps on that fake, gets a good pursuit angle, ends up tackling Zay Flowers for about an 8-yard gain. 8-yard gain, still an 8-yard gain, but it's not a 35-yard touchdown where he's untouched. That backside linebacker, it's not accounted for on the offensive side of the ball to block him. You're just hoping that the fake draws him enough that you're able to kind of burst off and make a big play. The Chiefs, obviously, that worked for a touchdown. The Ravens, it didn't work to get into a big play. It just became like a nice solid 8-yard gain, which
Yeah,
again,
when
you're
you
not
run
going to
those
complain
plays,
about
Michael,
that.
those are like they're supposed to go for chunk plays.
Yeah, and, like, 8 yards is, like, fine, but, like, that was
Like
exactly, if he got drawn in for another half a step and lost his discipline, that play goes from 8 yards to maybe 28 yards. That could have broken even longer. He might have not have been touched until the end. So, like,
exactly.
it's so the
Well,
poor linebacker play from Baltimore, including Roquan Smith, but, like, especially Malik Harrison and his 15 snaps was, like, detrimental significantly to their defensive efforts. I think definitely harmed them.
I think
I'd expect to see a lot less.
I brought up to you when we were talking about this game that the Ravens have a new defensive coordinator who is younger than me, which is yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, he's not that much older than you. If you would
oh
either,
boy, Jesus.
yeah, Zach Orr, former
Mhm.
player. Like, is this like another Sean Desai situation where they hired this young guy who, maybe some of the players, like, he's just, I would say overmatched, but like you kind of got the vibe where like maybe some players respond to someone that's not like the same age as them on
No,
defense.
yeah, I feel like it was less about scheme and more about player personnel. I don't know, it felt like the players weren't in the wrong
Well,
position to
Zach Orr is a
succeed. You were
really
just
great was a really good linebackers coach for the Ravens. But there's a difference when but think about it, dude. Like we hear this all the time where it's like team promotes a positions coach to try to run the same defense as the guy that left,
Mhm,
and it just doesn't work.
mhm. Yeah, it
Look at
happens all the
Brian
time.
Johnson and Shane Steichen is
Mhm.
like the textbook example of
It
this.
it happens all the time, and yeah, so it'll be a work in progress for the Ravens. I think they'll just see more general success defensively if they, you know, I think I think they have better players that deserve to play more than what they had. And I get it was week 1, you gotta see some things out. But yeah, I think that should be a quick nip to them that will pay dividends in the
Real,
future.
yeah. By the way, my last Ravens point is that Marlon Humphrey is cooked. He stinks.
Yeah, he
He
didn't look great.
he stinks. I mean, for the Chiefs, like Rashee Rice should not be playing, in my opinion, but
No, but that's just the
he
way the
is.
NFL has been. And
Yeah, I do. Obviously, Kansas City is going to be a top 3 team minimum in the NFL this year. Obviously,
yeah, I mean, Rashee Rice, it was one of those guys that like I didn't, since good heart of me, like, didn't wanna throw his name out there in, like, a good fantasy pick or whatever, but when it was coming pretty abundant or not abundant, when it was coming abundantly clear that he wasn't going to miss time for whatever potential legal reason, um, if there was a trial, if there was whatever, when it came clear that he wasn't missing time, he was going to be always a very, very good fantasy pick. He's gonna have a big year. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes' number 1 receiver, um, could be his number 1 target for majority of the game until maybe crunch time when he starts looking to Kelsey a little bit more, but, you know, the way it seemed like they tried to limit Kelsey last year and keep him healthy for the playoffs, that like led to them really struggling through because their wide receiver core was so poor. But it started getting flashes started to get a little bit better when Rashee Rice became kind of that number one target, the guy that Mahomes kind of looked to, leaned on a lot of the time, and he runs a damn good slant pattern and is able to get open over the middle of the field, and Mahomes is gonna, he's gonna put it on the numbers pretty much every single time. And Rashee Rice was very, very effective over the middle on those quick hitters, and I just think in full season of it, I think he's gonna have a pretty big year of
Yeah,
just a
I,
lot of those chunk plays.
I do feel like Kansas City's defense, because they've lost pieces to free agency.
Mhm.
They traded away L'Jarius Sneed. I think
Yeah.
it's going to take a step back, and I think even though their offense, I think, is definitely going to be better than last year. I
Mhm.
feel that. I mean, kind of feel like their offense last year was just good enough for them to win the Super Bowl. Where like having that defense in that AFC with so many good quarterbacks to like go through, like
Their strength was their defense, and it was always like, can the
I don't know,
offense do
man.
just enough?
Like I don't know, man. Like it felt like last year, like because the Ravens just didn't have a someone at the skill position that was like a monster, that they the Chiefs were just going to win that conference.
And they also outthought themselves. They didn't give themselves a fair chance. Like they out totally went away from their bread and butter, which is just running the football, which by the way was the weakness of said Chiefs defense. You got away from that and you kind of just it's like you played the
And they got
game.
away from it again in the game too.
Right, like you're playing the game with like a hand tied behind your back. Listen, they got away from it, but they were still in the game and succeeding because Lamar was running so well. It wasn't designed run calls, like, but they were still effective because Lamar Jackson played so fantastic. So
Right.
it's one of those things where it's just like
Let's
teams
um,
overthink themselves when they play Kansas City. It's the same way teams overthought themselves
I
when
think
they
this is
played
a
in New
good
England.
I think this is a good time, especially with play calling, on that regard, to transition over to Eagles Packers. I had really bad meat sweats watching that game. For
Yeah, that was also a classic. Another good game. Two good
Eagles
opening
Packers, I feel
performances.
like when both teams are good at the same time, you're going to get some really exciting games between the two.
Yeah. Where do you
One of the NFL's oldest rivalries
Right.
too.
So in the newest iteration of a classic bout between a couple teams, where do we want to start? Because there was a lot. There was a lot
Well,
to
let's just go with the lead. So when the Eagles signed Saquon Barkley, see, I was really nervous for the game. I don't know about you. Were you nervous? Were you nervined at all?
I was excited. I was, like, prepared for them to lose because of just the circumstances, but I was feeling just, like, generally optimistic, week 1, good team, good game, um, but, yeah, like, there's always the nerves were there.
So yeah, let's Saquon Barkley. Fair to say he had a Christian McCaffrey like impact his first game as an Eagle.
Yeah, I mean, I was petrified. I have texts to friends saying if he's not Christian McCaffrey, I'll be pissed. Like, it's like he kinda has no choice but to be that good and that much of an impact, and you felt it. You felt it a lot. It wasn't even besides like the one run in the 4th quarter or at the end of the 3rd quarter, um, where he the play seemingly had nowhere to go, and he, like, hesitated behind the line of scrimmage, then a crease opened up, and he hit it for a big run, that I honestly thought he should have broke for his 4th touchdown, but I don't know if he didn't see the safety
I think the
or
field conditions were not very ideal.
yeah, regardless. Besides that run, there weren't many plays that were like nothing that he turned into something big. Like it was what was given to him was like if nothing was given to him, he was just kind of falling forward, getting a couple yards, which not going to kill him for or anything like that. Um, but when the offensive line did have a good run block rep, I thought it was pretty in the middle for the most part. But when they did, you really saw like a burst of explosiveness that I just don't think the Eagles have really seen probably since LaShawn McCoy. Like, you had some flashes with Miles Sanders and you had some flashes with DeAndre Swift last year, but really, like, you hadn't had like a real just explosion out of the backfield when there's a hole in probably 10 years. And the way that Saquon Barkley on say like his first rushing touchdown. Like there was a gargantuan hole, but you saw him put his foot in the ground, make one cut, and just explode into the end zone for a touchdown. And it was just you see that speed boost that it looks like he hits. You see the way he's obviously extremely strong and he always is going to keep driving and carrying defenders for extra yardage, falling forward. His third touchdown was pretty much bottled up in the backfield before he was able to kind of fall forward and reach into the end zone. You saw his dynamic abilities in the receiving game. It was pretty much what you signed up for. He gave you everything you kind of asked for and everything you needed from him. He it's been lauded of the how important or lack thereof importance is the running back position, but when you have an offensive line that's supposed to be good, even on their not sharpest days, you see how much having the luxury of a good running back elevates what's already a very strong rushing attack and strong offensive line play. Like you just
Yeah,
you just see it to a new level.
yeah, it was with Saquon Barkley. Like you and I both have said this, even when he was still well into his Giants career, was that their O line was so bad. Like he
Mhm.
couldn't even like get out of the backfield because there was already two or three guys there in the gap, ready
Yeah.
waiting for him, right?
Mhm.
And it was kind of expected. Everyone kind of knew if he had a good offensive line that he was gonna put up numbers, right? Dude, I watching him play. Like I've seen Deuce Daly, I've seen Brian Westbrook, I've seen LaShawn McCoy, LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi.
You skipped DeMarco Murray.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a very good reason I skipped DeMarco
You
Murray.
also skipped Ryan Mesh.
And thanks,
I'm
Michael.
sorry.
I'm trying to name good ones,
Sorry.
okay? Good
Sorry.
ones. Oh God,
Anyways, you were at
why'd you utter
JJ.
those names?
You were
Anyway,
at JJ.
Saquon Barkley already looks like to me, just like the eye test, like better than all of them. Like I think that like he's like Brian Westbrook. If Brian Westbrook was like taking steroids, like that's how good he is. Like
It's
that,
yeah,
he
it's like
literally does everything very well.
it's a
Like
juiced up Brian Westbrook who still has like the shiftiness of LaShawn McCoy. Not like the same level, but it's pretty close.
right, and you even saw how it affected it really got the offense going from this perspective. So we were texting each other during the game, everybody, Michael and I'm like, they're selling out to stop Barkley between the 20s, but when they get into the red zone, it's like they just don't do. They kind of were like
Like
not doing it.
the Eagles' red zone offense should be very, very good this year. And like, yeah, in between the 20s, it felt like the Eagles' offensive line wasn't really cooking. But in the red zone, I think they were getting a little more creative and it opened things up. Like, We'll get into how motion played a role into the game and stuff a little bit more, but, the first touchdown of the game, the throw to Saquon Barkley, motioning Jahan Dotson behind the play, which drew the linebackers for, like, a half a second. Barkley coming out of the backfield across, just weaving through the traffic. It was like, that was Kellen Moore. That was a Kellen Moore play that was fully him, and it just speaks to the dynamic sorta abilities of him that you can trust him to kinda run a wheel route as your number 1 option on a red zone, end zone target, that he was able to track a beautifully placed ball by Jalen Hurts, keep his feet in bounds. Like, it's nothing new, it's not like we've never seen it from Barkley before, but it's something new for the Eagles to have in a very long time. The Eagles haven't had a receiving back probably of his caliber since Brian Westbrook. LaShawn McCoy was a nice receiving back, but it wasn't in the way of being like a receiver. It was more like
Yeah, you would
he
get him
could
out on a screen or a swing pass,
right, get him
and then
out,
he
get
would
him out
just
in
get
space and he makes the
yes.
play where, you know, that was the similar vibe with like Darren Sproles, get him out in space, they make a play. Brian Westbrook, would line up at slot receiver and could run a route and, was able to make plays downfield sometimes. And, you know, first time since him that the Eagles have had that running back position. So yeah, it's something new for like this era of Eagles football and it's exciting because I think it really adds a new element and it really like showcases that the Eagles offense weaponry is the most talented in the league.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Since we're on the topic of offense, well, there's this old saying. Well, there's a quote from Mike Schmidt where it says, "Only in Philadelphia you can experience the thrill of victory and the agony of reading about it the next day." Let's talk about Jalen Hurts. Now, he's been
Yeah.
catching a lot of flack about the 2 picks he threw and like 2 of the all there should have been interceptions that should have been thrown. Just an observation that I had for both teams because I'm not trying to make any like I'm going to give Jalen Hurts the benefit of the doubt week 1 because both quarterbacks like really did not look comfortable out on that field.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it was like Jordan Love was far from being sharp, and I think
And Love couldn't step into any of his throws.
most of his misfires were in pretty clean pockets, no pressure. He just missed guys. So like there was a lack of sharpness on both ends. Jalen, it's tough because Jalen had a very, very polarizing game. I thought he did some things exceptional. Barkley touchdown was very good. The AJ Brown touchdown was very good. I thought he ran hard on that last put away drive, obviously getting them a first down in a seemingly impossible spot. Um, but he did some things that were some of like the worst things that he's kind of ever done as a quarterback. Like 2021 Meadowlands giant game level of mistakes where at the end of that half, rolling to his right, should have just thrown it away and he floats an interception. Like he he has this problem that is a bit scary because it kind of just it can just get really bad really fast. He almost like compounds his mistakes. It's like in baseball where you boot a ground ball, just eat it. Don't pick it up and try to throw it because then you might throw it away and now the runner's on second and whatever. It's a total nightmare. Next play hit to you goes through your legs and you're like, Jesus, everything's falling apart. That's what it felt like when he threw that second interception. The first play, he kept it on an RPO that he just should have given it to Saquon, and he took a 2-yard loss. The next play, I didn't love the play call, but he tried to force it to the little hitch route that should have been a pick six. And then the final play, rolling to his right, trying to make a play freestyling, hero ball, if you will, throwing it across his body. Jair Alexander sees it because he pointed at AJ Brown saying, "Go that way." So he sinks back and he picks what was like a water balloon thrown into the end zone, and it just like
Yeah,
encapsulated
but
three bad
both
plays in a row.
quarterbacks did not have a lot of neither quarterback was really putting much zip on their passes. I think, like I said, like with the field conditions, Michael. So
I understand. I just feel like the
like
decision
nobody could
making.
like plant their feet. Like that's the
No, and the decision making was bad though. Like it was not just that. Like the
now
first pick that was thrown into like triple
now
coverage over the
you,
middle.
now do you
Like it
think
just
now do you think part of the issue with and listen, this was their first game with this like basically an entirely brand new offense. This isn't like Kellen Moore was Shane Steichen's OC with the Colts last year. Now he's here to
no.
run Shane Steichen's offense again, right?
Hmm.
Like Shane Steichen's offense does not utilize motion, right? At
It
all, for the most
not
part.
not a ton, not a ton.
The
No.
the teams that called the fewest motion, I think, were the Eagles and the Indianapolis Colts.
Hmm.
The issue with their offense was like their motion plays were insanely successful. Jalen Hurts against the blitz had a perfect passer rating. In on motion plays, he
It was
had
like
like
120.
he had an right basically like I'm just gonna call them they're like the Brock Purdy slash Tua plays. He's just running it perfectly.
It
But then
was.
when they're calling plays where I mean, let's be honest, like if AJ Brown and Devontae Smith were playing on like the Lincoln Financial Field turf, they would have cooked that Packers secondary.
I mean, they did cook them. Like here's when I look at what the Eagles did. I was looking at the pass chart of Jalen Hurts, and it was, I think, mostly more of the same. Like the ball wasn't thrown over the middle a ton for whatever reason. Maybe Jalen doesn't like doing it.
Well, because
It's still
it's because the Packers' new defensive. I don't mean to cut you off.
no,
Just
you're fine.
the Packers' defensive coordinator. His name eludes me, but he was the head coach at Boston College for the last 3 or 4 years. Boston College wasn't good, but
Hmm.
apparently a lot of teams in the NFL thought that this guy for like defense was going to be like what like Lincoln Riley is to
Hmm.
offense,
Hmm.
right? He
Yeah,
has all these exotic coverages and he's going to revolutionize defense and
right.
blah blah blah. And yeah, the Packers called some unique coverages. They confused Jalen Hurts and obviously we'll talk about it in a little bit, but there was a miscommunications between Cam Jurgens and Jalen Hurts. But
Yeah, listen. So
I'm sorry,
like
go ahead. I just want to give
yeah,
a
you're
preface
fine
to
because the ball wasn't thrown over the middle a lot. However, it didn't obviously, it didn't need to be a ton, and there were drag routes that on the passing chart, they got completed more on the left side, but it was, the ball just waiting for it to clear out before hitting it, where I'd almost consider that, that's fine, that's not whatever. The biggest difference, like you said, was the motion. It wasn't stagnant, things weren't whatever, where it felt like the Eagles' offense was similar to last year's, but they added motion to it where it just makes those plays and those concepts succeed like just a lot more. Like obviously there were Kellen Moore plays out there. They ran a bootleg or two. The Saquon Barkley receiving touchdown was very Kellen Moore-ish. Um, the uh, but the like that Saquon Barkley play, it was still kind of that, like, fake screen sorta thing that opens up behind the play that the Eagles ran at times last year, and they tried to run it when Hurts should have thrown the pick six. There was no motion on that play. It was just, like, clear play design. He pumped the screen, nothing was open down the field, and then he tried to force back the screen, should have been intercepted. So, it's like Kellen Moore is
you just
here
call
to
should we call them the Sirianni plays?
like, sure, I'd call him the Sirianni plays. Like, what it seems like Kellen Moore is doing is that he's implementing motion and misdirection to the Sirianni plays to enhance them to make them better. And I think that worked, like it did. Um, and the times where they kept the Sirianni plays in its purest form is when things were not going well. So, you can tell when plays look like a Kellen Moore play. You can tell when plays look like the Sirianni play. And then there's the everything in between where it's the Sirianni plays, but you're lining up differently and motioning to get guys going. Like, the A.J. Brown long touchdown. A.J. Brown was putting a little shuffle side motion just to get his feet going. It influenced Jair Alexander's coverage a little bit, influenced his body positioning, and that's all it took for the little out and up for A.J. Brown to cook him for a touchdown. Where, you know, if that's last year, he's just lined up, head up, he runs that out and up.
He
He's
might
probably
catch it.
not he might still complete it. It might be more of a 50-50 ball instead of him totally cooking Alexander. Like, it's just if he's not him starting in that motion, getting his feet going, I think it puts a little more pressure on Alexander to, think an outbreaking route is coming or something like it clearly worked. Obviously, 66% of the time the Eagles ran motion on Friday, and they were league worst 35% motion rate last year. So, I mean, they, doubled the number, a little more, 30% increase, from last year to this year, 100% increase if you look at it that way. But the offense with the motion and with the misdirect in that way, I think just opens up the Sirianni plays to not being as bad. It opens it up to them being good because you're just getting the defense
I,
moving a different direction.
I think, honestly, I kind of understand why maybe Kellen Moore didn't want to deploy his full playbook
Mhm.
because it's week 1. You're on a short week, so you're already losing a day of prep, and it's going to be easier on everyone involved because everyone on that offense except like 2 people,
Mhm.
Mekhi Becton and Saquon Barkley, already know the offense from last year anyway, right?
Yeah, and you don't wanna totally remove stuff you're good at. Like, they were great at throwing the ball down the sideline last year, year before. It's Hurts' probably best strong suit on balls, and you have 2 elite receivers that are great in those regards. You don't wanna totally take that out of the equation.
Yeah, I that exactly, and I think I hope from as we're going forward, I think we might have to call like the ass plays the Sirianni plays.
Yeah. I'll yeah, I'll send you, a little cool video that I thought maybe reiterated what I said a little
Yeah,
bit
like those
better.
those wide receiver screens that the Packers were practically jumping on, like,
Mhm,
and then like I you just gotta scrap them just
mhm,
because everyone just like obviously there's something in that play design where teams know it's going to be a screen off the bat. Like you should
mhm,
run that play only if it's like they're in like a deep cover 3 where it's not 3rd and 1 or 2nd and 2. You should be running that. You should be running it like 1st and 10, maybe like 2nd and 15, and then just getting an easy 10 yards with like
mhm.
AJ Brown or Devontae Smith.
Yeah,
Um, let's talk about the defense, the Eagles defense. A lot of people were criticizing the Eagles defense after Friday. I think people being a little bit too hard, especially in the beginning of the game when the offense committed 2 egregious turnovers. The Jalen Hurts 3rd and 15 interception over the middle, where I think he thought he put more loft on it, where
yeah, I
he
mean,
was
that
going to.
was an awful decision. It was just triple coverage. It was never open. I
I think
thought that
Todd
was
Blackledge. I don't know if Todd Blackledge is an Eagles fan. I know he played college ball at
I
Penn
did not
State.
like listening to Todd Blackledge, I have to say.
I don't know if he was like an Eagles fan because the way he was talking about the Eagles, he was like, "Oh, it was really odd." He's a college
Mhm,
announcer.
mhm.
Um. Anyway,
But, yeah, 2 bad
anyway,
turnovers,
anyway, and
spotted
then
the
and then the
Packers.
Cam Jurgens like snapping the ball prematurely when Hurts is trying to call out the mic and make adjustments at the line of
Mhm,
scrimmage for pass pro. Um. The Eagles defense got in some really ass situations very early in the game, and it ultimately had the Eagles winning the game because instead of allowing 14 points, they only allowed 6 points.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I have fairly little complaints about the Eagles defense.
Well, there's really one guy on the Eagles defense who I don't suspect will be starting much longer. I think you may know of who I'm referring to. That would
Mm.
be one former, well, that'd be Avante Maddox.
Yeah, I mean, like, when I look at the defense, I guess the big negatives, Avante Maddox did not play well. I feel like at this point in his career, he should really just be kind of a safety. Obviously he's always been undersized, but with the injuries, it just looks like they've caught up with him and he's just lost some of that quickness. And if you're going to be undersized and you're not going to be that fast, you're just not going to be super valuable. And he was getting cooked
Why do
pretty
they
often.
hate Keely Ringo so much?
Well, I think what they really wanted to do on Friday was they wanted Quinyon Mitchell on the outside. And listen, Quinyon Mitchell, I thought was fantastic. I thought he looked very, very good.
I hate this is gonna sound. I think he's like the corner version of Jalen Carter.
Okay, no complaints there. Like I look at Quinyon Mitchell, and obviously a rookie, but he hit the ground running. And if you're getting a rookie that's hitting the ground running and looks like he belongs, doesn't look out of place, is talking his trash, like acting like he belongs there, which he does. It's huge. And I thought he made some nice PBUs. I thought just because they were targeting him, they were throwing at him a lot. Darius Slay only got targeted once. Besides maybe a coverage bust, which I don't even think got chalked up to him, but it maybe should have. Um, but they were going after Mitchell, and Mitchell was doing fantastic. So I think they wanted Quinyon Mitchell to be on the outside when Isaiah Rodgers wasn't going to play, and I just don't think they gave Keely Ringo inside reps, and I don't think they wanted to put Mitchell on the inside, and I think that's probably all it was. I'll be interested to see what they do week 2 if Rodgers is healthy. I'd like to see Isaiah Rodgers in the slot and Quinyon Mitchell to stay on the outside. If he's not healthy and you're just trying to figure out your best, getting your best DBs on the field, I think that would involve moving Quinyon inside and then putting Keely Ringo on the outside. But like it was frustrating watching Maddox, and I think if Maddox is going to continue to get cooked, you'd be better off with Mitchell on the inside, Ringo on the outside, instead of having Maddox play at all. So it'll be interesting to see how they
Or maybe have
navigate that
Maddox
moving
play
forward.
safety because
That's what
he's
I'm saying. Yeah, like I think he'd be better suited at this point as just strictly a safety, if you can. And besides Maddox playing poorly, there were like 2 plays I was just annoyed, frustrated with, and they were, basically subsequent. It was Nakobe Dean dropping the pick 6, which was just
that was
awful.
probably one of the worst drop pick sixes I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was so bad. And then,
Like Love threw
immediately
like Love completely did not read
his
what was going
timing was
on,
off. It was just
and
bad.
and because I think we mentioned before because of the field he couldn't.
He slipped. He legit slipped, gathered his feet, flicked it out there, and they were not on the right page, and it should have been a touchdown the other way. What do you know? 2 plays later, busted coverage on the Eagles' part, touchdown Packers. Where I'm thinking it was Darius Slay's fault because I keep seeing the behind the angle view, and you watch Gardner Johnson go straight, middle third. You watch Quinyon kind of go deep third, and then the linebackers, like, it wasn't cover 2 because the middle linebacker, whoever it was, I forget, didn't really go just straight deep, and you see Darius Slay kinda creeping up, and
Yeah,
over his head is where
I
that
think
play
Darius Slay
goes.
thought so. I know with the Fangio defense, the DBs are supposed to adjust their coverages based off of what the offense is showing, and like I think Darius Slay thought it was going to be a something in the flat, so he played cover 2, and
Mhm.
then CJ Gardner Johnson saw that it was not going to be in the flat, so he was covering the middle of the field, and then he had to make a beeline all the way over to try and stop Jaden Reed, who Michael, I think Jaden Reed, like everyone was kind of talking about fantasy football sleepers. If you drafted Jaden Reed, you're well, I don't know. Maybe
Jaden
after the injury news to Jordan Love, maybe
Yeah,
not.
Jaden Reed, he's like I think he's just gonna score a lot of touchdowns. He's a big play guy, home run hitter, but that same sort of look also bit the Eagles, it bit Quinyon Mitchell, where They ran that same sort of style of play with the multiple crossers, and Quinyon Mitchell got caught, eyes in the backfield, playing more up in the flat, and over his head, they hit another big play. So that might be, something obviously Fangio's going to look at. But the other, I guess we'll talk one more negative on the defensive side because there was a lot of positives that I want to kind of applaud.
Yeah, go ahead.
The last negative, I think just in general was the pass rush. There were times it
Well,
got
the
home.
outside pass rush, I think, in
Yeah, yeah. I thought
particular.
I thought that, Jalen Carter was getting held a lot and was wreaking havoc. Ajomo looked good. Milton Williams got in there a couple times. Jordan Davis, I thought, looked good against the run, which was very encouraging. Brandon Graham had some nice pass rushes. Josh Sweat had a couple nice pass rushers. Bryce Huff had very little effect on the game, I felt, and obviously Hassan Reddick, like you said, didn't break out until the Jags game, which was week 4. But it wasn't pretty. It was not pretty from Bryce Huff, and he's going to need to be a lot better. They did get some pressure on some creative blitzes, and I guess this is a good segue to seemingly, maybe the best player on the field defensively for the Eagles. Like we all expected, Zach Bond was incredible Friday. 15 tackles, 2 quarterback hits, 2 sacks, tackle for loss. He was all over the place. He was all over the field, um, flying around, physical, just just everywhere. They really I was very pleased with the linebacker play kind of as a whole, but I was very pleased by Zach Bond and fitting that he had the game clinching sack on Malik Willis. I gotta I don't know, like, I'm hoping it's not like, oh, if we remember not so long ago, it was like after the Tampa game, we were like, "Man, Nicholas Morrow actually looks pretty good," and then everything went to crap very soon thereafter. I
Well,
I hope that Zach Bond is not gonna be that, and I don't
well,
think he is, but
let's talk about when we talk about Fangio's defense. Let's talk about, I mean, real quick, the Dolphins last year. Like, no one knew who Andrew Van Ginkel was. He was a
Mhm,
journeyman player. He's in the Andrew Van Ginkel spot, so it's sort of like, I mean, I don't know, dude. Is maybe like Vic Fangio, like the Caleb Cotham of inside linebackers, where these
mhm,
guys takes these randos and they just
mhm.
look really good in his scheme. Because N'Kobe Dean, like, really struggled early in training camp, and then the second half of camp, he looked much better.
Yeah, and I thought he looked pretty good, yes, Friday as well. I thought he was playing aggressive, flying around,
He
you
is
know?
playing north south.
He's
That's what
he's
he does
just
best.
limited, like, he's just limited in some capacities.
Yeah, well, it's like kind of like with Patrick Queen last year with the Ravens when he was playing with Roquan Smith. They could kind of like mask his deficiencies a little bit, let him do what he does best, and it's going to help the overall defense.
Mhm.
Some of the positives you mentioned, Jordan Davis. I think. Well, let me ask you this. This is kind of my concern with the run defense overall. Do you think Josh Jacobs just looks cooked, or just not? He's just not good.
No, I don't think so. No. I thought Josh Jacobs looked fine. Like, he had some nice
The
nice
Eagles
runs he
had
put
like
through.
a bunch of tackles for loss on him.
Yeah, I think the Packers' offensive line isn't great. Like, I felt like, they got some new guys up front, especially in the interior, and I thought the Eagles' interior defensive line was able to kind of feast, um, in the run game and, you know, letting their linebackers kind of be aggressive. Obviously, it got them cooked on a couple play actions, but it was able to really, get the run game stopped before it even got going, and I thought that was encouraging. The biggest thing I want to say about the defense that excited me and like was a very, very good sign was came after the game when Matt LaFleur uh, in his presser was talking about, he said like we left a lot of points out there. He said like I thought we sucked in the red zone, obviously early in the game, but he gave credit to the Eagles, and he said they did some things that we were not expecting to see. And that honestly, I almost fell to my knees in excitement when I heard that because, like, the Eagles' defense has felt predictable for some time now. And if you're not gonna have a substantially talented group, which I wouldn't say the Eagles are in, like, the top end of defensive talent. I think their secondary kinda is, but I think, everything else, I think there's some talent deficiencies. So, if you're going to not be a super talented group, where you make up for that is disguising coverages, disguising looks, decoys, being creative, breaking out things that haven't been seen on film yet. And I think that's a big benefit of what you get with Vic Fangio. We feel how you feel about Vic Fangio. Maybe he's not as good as he once was. I think his peak was with the Bears. But I still think he's got some good stuff in him, and this is one of the things that a veteran defensive
Oh,
coordinator brings of just
Michael,
being.
when he was on the Bears, Michael, he had like Fangio Bears or like the Broncos. Like
No,
Vic.
listen, I understand. I
I
know.
mean,
I
like I
know.
mean, Michael, he had Khalil Mack and Von Miller, like two
Yeah.
Hall of Fame pass rushers.
No,
Which,
listen,
by the
I
way, I'm
understand.
calling this right now, Michael. If the Eagles pass rush outside doesn't get going by like week 5 or week 6, I'm like 95% confident that, and this is, you're probably not going to like this, I think Khalil Mack is going to be an Eagle.
Yeah, no, you mentioned it before. It'd be I don't know what he's got left in the tank.
He had
I guess
16
we'll.
sacks last year. I mean, or
Yeah,
18. Granted, he had like
I mean,
7 of them in one game, but throw out that one game, that's still like 11.
yeah, you'll have to see how the pass rush looks, but regardless, the fact that the Eagles defense was able to do things that, Matt LaFleur, who is considered a very highly regarded offensive mind, being able to do things to throw him off and surprise him. Um, I think the biggest thing is actually the interception. The interception was huge. They set that up. The Packers were in the red zone, and the Eagles ran a look where they, sent a blitz, sent a creative blitz, and you know, the result of the play was the result of the play. The Eagles came back in that same look on the interception, and Jordan Love thought that blitz was coming again because you see him get rid of that ball quickly, but in reality, Zach Bond dropped out of the blitz and totally cut off that Luke Musgrave route that Jordan Love thought with the blitz coming was going to be there as his quick hot if he was under pressure, but it was covered, so he lofted it. Luke Musgrave couldn't cut his route down shorter, and Reed Blankenship made an incredible play, aggressive play on the ball to intercept the pass. So what you're going to get from Vic Fangio at the very least is you're going to get some creative looks that confuse offensive coordinators, play callers, quarterbacks, etc. And I think that's going to be massive throughout the season, being able to throw some things at teams that they're not expecting and, you know, make you're going to make plays based off. You're going to force teams into situations they're not ready for, and I think that's huge for especially this group to kind of get some key stops. And I think it's why they were so successful in the red zone early in the game, keeping them off the board. Because honestly, like very easily could have lost the game right there if you give up 2 touchdowns early on, but they did a great job.
Whoa. Oh, sorry, I got breaking news, dude.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
What did Tyreek Hill get arrested for?
So Tyreek Hill got arrested this morning, seemingly for a driving slash traffic violation, and the video has him laying on the ground getting detained by police. Uh, it's not a good look. Not really sure what was going on there. Um, but Yeah, no idea what happened. He plans to play, according to
I mean,
reports.
I'm sure he wants to play, but
The
uh,
expectation per Adam Schefter is that he's going to play. Drew Rosenhaus, I just left Tyreek, and he's getting ready to play right now, so I guess he's gonna play. Tyreek Hill has been cited for reckless driving after being pulled over for speeding. There was a verbal altercation with the police officer, which led to him being put into handcuffs. Hill is now at the stadium and will play today. You know, as the guy that drafted him at the top of my fantasy draft, how do I feel
what if he got
about this?
arrested by a guy who had a parlay and he's like Tyreek Hill 2 touchdowns. He's like they'd be like Tyreek, I'm gonna let you go with the warning. Just please don't drive fast anymore. I need
Yeah,
you to score
or
touchdowns.
that cop had him is playing against him in fantasy, and he's like, "You're in jail for a day."
He's gonna be like, is like, excuse me, sir, I'm gonna need you to step outside the car, put your hands on your Maserati or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't think Tyreek Hill drives like a Honda Civic. I'm pretty sure he probably drives a nice
No,
fancy.
he was driving a nice car. Yeah, it could be a Lambo. Anyways, he'll play.
So anyway, so Phillies roundup and then picks.
Yeah.
So obviously, Michael, the Phillies, we've been very nervined for the past like the month of August, and then this past Braves series, they
It was really since the Royal series, really. Um,
yes, they've rediscovered their swing. The pitching, people are like, oh, they've been pitching better. No, they've been pitching pretty much the same. They just couldn't score runs.
yeah. The Phillies, um, the Phillies, they're playing a lot better, obviously. Yesterday sucked, but, they've been everything everything's kinda looking a bit better. You know, Bryce Harper is currently dealing with pain of sorts in his, like, wrist and elbow area. He said it's not the ligament, though, thank God, is what he's urging, but it seems like he's just not gonna have much power probably for the rest of the year, but he's still hitting, to be fair. Like, the last month, he's been hitting well, just not a lot of home runs. Schwarber, you know, after his egregiously cold stretch, went full insano mode. Hit a plethora of home runs in the last week. Uh, but the real two players that have been playing significantly, I'll make it three really. The three players that have been significantly better that I think is a humongous reason as to why they are winning now and again is JT Realmuto, Brandon Marsh, and Bryson Stott. They have had a pretty strong, like, 2 or 3 weeks at this point, um, and it's been massive. You know, the lineup is obviously at its best when the bottom of the order is hitting because, you know, it picks up the slack if the top of the lineup is struggling, and when it was struggling, when Schwarber was struggling, Turner's still kinda struggling, those guys were able to pick it up and drive in runs and get big hits when needed, but now that, you know, Schwarber's kinda hitting again, Harper's still hitting, you know, when the bottom of that lineup is looking good and more dangerous and doesn't feel like an automatic out, it just feels like they're capable of it's obviously they're capable of just scoring more runs, especially late in games, and it's what they've been doing to getting some greasy wins here. They've been getting some dominating wins. They're just they're looking a lot more like they did earlier in the season where they're pitching well, the bullpen's looking good, and they're finding ways to score on offense, you know, whether it be the home run, whether it be more small ball, clutch base hits, situational hitting, whatever you name it. They're playing a lot better, and, you know, their magic numbers are looking attainable, for what they need it to be. So, yeah, can't complain about the Phils. In a good mood
I
with them.
mean, I think the key is going to be to try and get this division locked up
Mhm.
within the next 2 weeks. So maybe you can give Bryce Harper a break because I feel
Yeah.
like you know they kind of need him. but at the same time, like I don't think his injury's so bad, like you said. Like if it was bad, he wouldn't be hitting, and he's still hitting. He's still hitting. He's still getting good contact. Um, getting drilled in the elbow the other day, that was not ideal.
No, no, it was not ideal.
But I think we know with Bryce Harper is, I don't want to say he's. I don't know if it's just what the injury is. The Phillies haven't really said. He said soreness,
I think it's just truly just pain.
and I don't know if they're going to do injections or
Mm-hmm.
rehab, but it could be I mean, we've seen the Phillies do this before when like Zach Wheeler would have forearm pain and we're like, oh my God, is he going to get, is this like ulcer, collateral ligament, nerve damage pain? Oh my God, is he going to, you know what I mean? And then they just
Mm-hmm.
rest him and then he's fine.
Yeah.
Ranger, back tightness. He was in pain.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him a month off, right? And then he's back and now he looks like he's in form again. He
Mm-hmm.
looked really good the other day. Didn't even throw 100 pitches. Only threw him 80 pitches, which I thought was really smart. Why would you do that to him?
Yeah. Yeah, they're handling things. The bullpen's coming together. Estevez has looked very sharp. Hoffman's obviously nails. Strom's look better. Alvarado, honestly, has looked pretty encouraging. You know, dealing with his personal family issues at the time. Things are coming together at the right time. You know, I'm excited. I'm excited for the stretch run. I'm excited for the playoffs. I think things are falling into place. Obviously, Alec Boehm being injured is unideal.
I
I
feel like I know he's injured. Kind of feels like they're just trying to get him right. Kind of
Yeah,
like
I
what they've
fear
done.
that it's like because obviously they were trying not to put him on the IL. And they're like, oh, he'll rejoin the team soon. Or will join the team in Miami. Blah 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 blah. But then they put him on the IL, and I hope that it wasn't because it got worse, and it's just because they were winning that they're like, "All right, let's just totally shut him down until it gets better." I mean, I don't even know what a hand strain is. I've never heard that obviously I know, but it's never been an injury I think I've seen, like, as listed as a hand strain. So I'm hoping that the Phillies are just winning and they're like, all right, things are going well. Let's give Alec the full rest that he needs, and not that he woke up one day and it started hurting a lot more. So I'm not sure what it is. I guess we'll see in 10 days or whatever when he's back. I think he'll be back. I think the earliest he can be back is that Mets series at home, the 4-game Mets series at home. I think it's the earliest he can be back. So we'll see.
Well, Michael,
We'll see
Michael,
then.
if you think about it, for this season, for this Phillies team,
Mhm,
Trey Turner had to go take an injury list stint where they were cautious in bringing him back,
mhm,
and they played him with caution until he got right. JT Real Muto, they made him take an extra week and a half or 2 weeks to recover.
mhm,
Um, Brandon Marsh, same thing early on the season, injury, rested him. Johan Rojas didn't get hurt, but they set him down to get him right.
and he has been right, honestly, since he's been
Yeah.
back. Much better at
The
bats.
only two guys I feel like I've just three guys really that I feel like they played every day have been Bryce.
Kyle,
Bryce. Well, Schwartz had an injury, but him and Bryce both kind of sat for a little bit,
like a week, yeah.
right? So the only player
Castellanos.
is Castellanos.
Yeah, and listen, after that first, like, month or 2, he's been probably your most consistent hitter, crazy enough to say, but
This
he's
is
been a
going to
nice
sound
mainstay.
absolutely bat poop insane. If you were to assign an everyday player on this team, and I don't know, like the Bill, I don't know like the most valuable player, the most consistent player, or whatever award, like because Castellanos has basically played every single day and has had
Mhm.
so many clutch hits like the last 2 months.
Mhm.
Do you like give him some kind of like I don't know, like an award, like or like wow, like we had low expectations for you and like you've kind of exceeded them. Like not gonna lie, like you've been the only one that's like not been hurt or
Yeah, listen, it's nice. It's been a very nice guy to have consistently in the lineup every day, especially the last like 3 months. It's been pleasurable. So yeah, overall, I think we're pretty positive on the Phillies at the moment. The teams around them, like the Brewers, have been cold. The Dodgers have been losing a bit. The Braves, they keep getting hurt. Whit Merrifield just broke his foot. The only team that's like scorching at the moment is the Mets, who have won 9 in a row. But I mean, you know, I pray that '07 doesn't happen against the Phillies. But that's pretty much all that. Like what happened in '07 is what it would take for the Phillies to lose the division at this moment. So, knocking on wood, hopefully that does not happen and things will be fine. I really want that 2 seed. I want to avoid the Diamondbacks and the Padres as best as I can. Obviously, you can't control it. They do have the tiebreaker over the Dodgers, so it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the year shakes out. But yeah,
I think if
I'm
there's
I'm
one team that
excited.
could benefit from that bye, it would be the Phillies because of these guys are banged up.
Guys are banged up, and I think all their pitchers could just use some days, for sure. And yeah, so I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
I'm excited as well. Yeah, so now that we're kind of through with the Phillies, I think it's time for us to get into today's. It's the big part of the show is the picks. So,
Yeah, I'm about as excited as I have been for football season and week 1
so
in a
I like
long
when you
time.
read the teams. I think
All right.
I think you should start us
Let's
off.
let's kick us off, John. All right. So, starting us off, we are in where does this have us beginning? We are in perfect. We are in Miami. Um Tyreek Hill, he's at the field, he'll play. Was arrested this morning. Don't know how that'll affect him for the game. I'm personally hoping not much. But anyways, a battle of Florida to open up the regular season. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 3.5-point underdogs in Miami to take on the Dolphins. Big year for the Jags. I think it's a big year for Doug in terms of trying to save his job. I think this is probably. I don't think he's going to get much leeway this year on missing the playoffs or disappointing playoff exit. I don't think there's going to be a lot of slack. I'll be honest, don't love what the Jags did in the offseason, really. I thought Calvin Ridley had a solid year. Let him walk, and you replace them effectively with Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. It just, I don't know. Don't love what the Jags did. I'm very, I think, pessimistic on the Jags as a whole. If there's one thing that Miami and Tua is good at, it's winning early in the season, and the offense is looking on fire. So I'm going to take Miami. I'll take the Dolphins -3.5 to open up the slate.
Yeah, two quarterbacks that got two huge contract extensions that don't feel like they deserved, in my opinion.
Oh man, yeah,
Uh,
your anti-Trevor agendas.
well, I mean, like not anti-Trevor, more
No,
like
I get it.
anti,
I
just
get it.
paying for mid,
Yes. Yeah.
elite money for mid because no other position in the NFL has that. Yeah, so I guess it kind of depends on what you think the Jaguars are going to be this year. If you think the Jaguars are an 11-win team this season, then they should win this game because Tua just doesn't beat teams that have winning records.
Hmm.
He has completely failed at that his entire NFL career.
Are you one of those people that thinks the Jags win in 11 games?
Absolutely not. Give me the Miami Dolphins laying the 3.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you really set it up for like a 0.0.
But if the Dolphins lose, then the Jaguars are probably going to have a
The
winning record.
Jags are gonna. If the Dolphins lose, I'm putting the house on them to win the division. The Jags. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though with so Jags. So the Jags the Jags made a bunch of coaching changes too, but like to their
Mhm.
defense, which I think their defense wasn't bad last year.
Mhm.
But Doug fired Mike Caldwell and he hired Ryan Nielsen. Do you know who
Mhm.
Ryan Nielsen is, Michael?
The mm, hold on. I feel like I do.
So
Where
he
was
was
he
the
at before?
Falcons defensive coordinator last year.
Really?
So if you remember last year, the Falcons defense was like not bad. They were just like
Mhm.
you were like, wow, how are the Falcons playing so well? They have like only 3 good players on defense, right? They
Mhm.
have no
Mhm.
pass rush, but how are they doing this well? Well, it's because of Ryan Nielsen. Now, obviously, he's coming to a Jaguar team with more talent than he had with the Falcons. Um, but I don't know, dude. Like the Dolphins should score like 28 points, like with their scheme and I,
It's just yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
I don't know. So let's moving on.
Moving
Oh
on, we
God,
have the Pittsburgh
am I
Steelers
reading this right? Sorry, go ahead.
quarterbacked by Justin Fields, not Russell Wilson, who was announced the starter, but Russell Wilson, I think, dealing with a calf issue, will
Yeah,
allow Justin Fields to be the starter today. Head to Atlanta, the first game of the Kirk Cousins era of the Atlanta Falcons, the first game of the Raheem Morris era of the Atlanta Falcons. That line has shifted, I think, with the news of Russ not starting from Atlanta -2.5 to Atlanta -4. So the Falcons are 4-point favorites at home. A lot of money on the Pittsburgh Steelers to cover this spread. But a lot of the money is also on the Falcons to win the game. So I think a lot of people are looking at Falcons to win by a field goal. Listen, the Steelers, they're one of those teams that they win games that they really aren't supposed to. It's kind of been their
oh
mainstay.
no, go ahead.
It's been their mainstay, the last bunch of years. Their ability to finish at or above 500, or sorry, above 500 has been impressive. And it comes in games, I think, sort of like this. Like this is where they win the game, they steal it at the end, etc. It puts me in a tough spot. Like this is a game I'm absolutely staying away from because I really don't believe in much of it. I guess I guess I'm gonna go to Pittsburgh +4. I do think the Falcons are going to win the game. I'm kinda on that boat with the public of the Steelers covering and Atlanta winning, perhaps by a field goal. So, um, I'm gonna take the Steelers. Just feels like one of those games that inexplicably we're in the 4th quarter and it's like 13-13 and, it's a sweat to the end.
You know, I'm gonna go with the Falcons to cover here. The
Mhm.
reason why I like Atlanta is this whole like Arthur Smith like revenge aspect to the
That's not moving me.
game.
My making 0%
Absolutely
of my
not.
pick is based off
And that's
that.
the thing is that, here's the thing is that Arthur Smith, first off, we talk about Mike Tomlin, would the Steelers move on from him? It's going to be kind of effed up if Arthur Smith is the reason Mike Tomlin could potentially lose his job, in
Mhm,
my opinion.
mhm.
Because Arthur Smith to me is just like Adam Gase. He's an arrogant, self-centered prick who
Ooh,
thinks he's reinventing football.
ooh.
And if when I this is where I knew he was just an asshole. So Peter Skoronsky, he's on the Titans.
Yes, I do.
They brought him in for a pre-draft interview. And
Mhm,
according to Peter Skoronsky, he's meeting with Arthur Smith and the GM. He's going to be a
mhm,
first round pick. That's what usually happens, right? When they
mhm.
interview him. Apparently, Arthur Smith spent the entire interview playing on his laptop, half paying attention to the interview, and he told Peter Skoronsky, "You're really boring. You're not exciting at all. You're really boring." And he was like, "Yeah, this is what according to Peter Skoronsky." And he's like, "I just want exciting players like Bijan, basically, not
To
like
then
offensive linemen."
go ahead and split touches with them the whole
Like
season.
this was a complete waste. Like
Yeah,
me
this guy needs psychiatric help, is what I'm hearing. This
Well,
guy's
he's
insane.
he's the son. He's the one of the he is the son of
He's
like
like
the
sounds like a
founder of
trust fund
FedEx.
baby.
He's
Yeah,
a trust fund nepo baby who looks like he's still breastfed, happens to be an NFL coach.
Arthur Smith, ladies and gentlemen.
That's Arthur Smith. And
Oh,
what?
breaking news. Hours before the season kicks off, the Dallas Cowboys have agreed to a contract extension
With Dak?
with quarterback Dak Prescott. 4 years, $240 million. Dak Prescott is making $60 million a season for the next 4 years. Wow.
Oh
Wow.
boy. Well, we'll talk about that once we talk about the
Wow.
Cowboys and Browns because I have some interesting takes on that game.
Mhm.
But let's talk about this game. Oh yeah, Arthur Smith's a chode. Yeah, give me the Falcons laying the 4. I would not be surprised if the Steelers could only muster like 10 points.
Mhm. Okay, next game we got here. I think this game is I'm intrigued to, whatever. Okay. So we have the Minnesota Vikings on the road in New York against the Giants. This line has swung from the Giants -1 to the Vikings -1. John, this is a game that I think a lot of people are hammering Minnesota. Excuse me, my goodness. And I get it. The Giants are terrible. I also think the Giants suck. However, I do think that people are I don't know. I also think the Vikings suck. And I don't think that Sam Darnold I do think he has a candidacy to be a Geno Smith sort of resurgence type of year this year where he can be a solid player. Um, but I don't think that the like I think if there's a game that the Giants are gonna win, it's a game like this, like week 1, the excitement, they're in the ugly uniforms from the beginning of time, Malik Neighbors' debut, they're pretty healthy, all things considered. I think that this is one of those games where, the Giants win, they're up week 1, 1-0, they're all excited before they lose a bunch in a row. So I'm picking the Giants, getting the 1 point at home, and I think they're actually gonna win today.
I agree with you. When you look at the Minnesota Vikings, they have some talented players, right? But defensively,
Mhm.
they're a mess.
Yeah.
They're a mess. They got old players on defense. They're probably going to be the team that finishes in the bottom 5 of the NFL, and they're going to be furiously shopping their draft pick because there's going to be a quarterback there, and they're just going to pray that they get some sort of ridiculous trade package to rebuild their team.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think. Listen, I think Jay Jetta is going to put up numbers.
Yeah.
The problem is that Darnold blows. Darnold blows. He's
So
proven
you're not a believer in Samuel Darnold.
that he blows. And listen, Kevin O'Connell, I think is a solid offensive guy.
Mhm.
This isn't like Sean McVay fixing Baker in 3 weeks and then
Right.
goes to the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
No.
No.
I don't think you can fix Darnold.
Mhm.
Darnold's problem isn't his talent, with his arm. It's this is Darnold's problem. You can't
Right.
fix that.
Yeah. No,
So,
you cannot fix
and
that.
listen, the Giants know Daniel Jones sucks ass. So
Mhm.
you're probably gonna see a lot of Devin Singletary. They're gonna scheme. I think Brian Dable is good enough to scheme up Malik Neighbors plays to get him in
Mm-hmm.
space and have him make plays. Like, what's the over under on this game? 41 and a half.
42. Let's see, 42 and a half. Yeah.
42.
Yeah.
Probably just take. It's going to be an under game. It's going to be a dog like bowling shoe ugly game. I don't want to keep cursing like a drunk sailor. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I'll take the Giants as well.
Next game, we got an NFC South divisional bout between a couple of teams that I'm so uninspired by, but whatever. Carolina Panthers on the road in New Orleans in the Dome. Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are 3.5-point favorites at home. I like the Panthers. I think the Panthers are a team. I think the roster blows. I think it sucks. I think it's really, really bad.
Well, I know why you're taking the Panthers.
But Mr. Dave Canales, I believe in Dave Canales. I believe in his ability to fix quarterbacks and his ability to make the most out of what they are. He did it with Geno Smith. He did it with Baker Mayfield. And I think he's going to be able to help do it with Bryce Young. And I think Bryce Young I think he has a higher ceiling than those guys, obviously, fixing a 30-year-old Geno Smith, getting a 28-7-year-old, whatever, Baker Mayfield, looking back to a solid quarterback, getting him a nice payday, versus like getting your hands on a second-year quarterback that had probably the worst situation all of football last year. The player personnel situation this year hasn't gotten much better, but I think they have a coach that knows how to get to quarterbacks and get them better. So, yeah, I'm taking Carolina plus 3.5 on the road, and I think they're like a sneaky possibility to win. But I'll just take them to cover the spread here.
Yeah. I'm just curious. When's the last time Panthers Saints record? The last time the Panthers went to the Dome and beat the Saints. I'm very curious. So the Saints are 29-28 all time against the Panthers. So it's a very even rivalry.
That's kind of surprising.
And so last year, the Panthers traveled to New Orleans and lost 28-6. They've actually the year before. Hold up. The year before, they beat the Saints 10-7. Dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, look, the Saints, I mean, listen, the Panthers have just not been good. And like the Saints just beat the Panthers when they're at home, right? Historically speaking, right?
Yeah.
The Saints laying 3.5 to like one of the worst teams in recent NFL history last year.
Mm-hmm.
Laying 3.5 at home. I kind of agree with you, dude. That kind of I smell something afoul with that. Yeah. I'm going to take the Panthers as well. Did you see, like, real quick? Did you see that like their Saints are having like a backup quarterback controversy?
Between who?
Spencer Rattler, who like lit it up in the preseason, and Jake Haener. I think that what the concern is, if they name Rattler the backup, you're basically saying like if Derek Carr just blows, like we're gonna throw Rattler in there, but like they don't want to hurt Derek Carr's feelings because
I mean they committed a lot of money to Mr. Carr, so
yeah.
Yeah. Well, this next game, this is just a disgusting game to bet on. I have no desire to take like a spread of any sort because God forbid, I have no idea. The Bengals are at home against the New England Patriots. Jacoby Brissett and the New England Patriots, I might add, they did not elect to make Drake May the Week 1 starter, which I do view as.
I'm benching Jamar Chase today because he's definitely not going to play.
Yeah, so Jamar Chase, are you sure? Breaking news, Jamar Chase is active and will give it a go today. Officially, just now.
Can I start? Okay. No, that
I
no.
don't know because all right. So here's
Do
the
I
issue with
start him? Okay, do I start him over? Because I can flex. I could move DJ Moore in his spot, and then do I flex Amari Cooper against the Cowboys, Cortland Sutton against the Seahawks, Jerome Ford against the Cowboys?
like I'd be between I'd go Cooper if I'm not starting Chase, but if I don't know, man. Like you're gonna just I, they're not getting a contract done today, Jamar Chase and the Bengals.
This feels like this is going to be a cardio day for Jamar Chase, and
Is
next
it a
week is going to
cardio
be good.
day? He's active. Like these were the reports the last few days that they were seemingly close on a contract that if he was going to play, he'd play in a limited capacity and whatever. However, T. Higgins is also not playing. He has a hamstring injury. Shocker, I know, right? Um, T. Higgins is banged up, out today. Jamar Chase is, I guess, active and going to dress, but who knows if that means he's actually going to be involved. He hasn't really been practicing. No idea what that entails. This line's 7.5. It's so
Start Zach
greasy.
Moss.
Yeah, it's so greasy. Like if New
Michael, this
England was
New England
starting,
team might be the worst team in the
that's
league.
what I'm saying. If New England was starting Drake May, I think I'd full-fledged confident pick them. But with Jacoby Brissett, who I don't think blows, by the way, I really don't. Like, I don't
No,
want
he's a
this to
good
sound
backup
like,
quarterback.
yeah, I don't want this to sound like whatever. But like, I do believe in the Bengals defense, and
I
I don't
also
know.
believe in the Bengals defense.
I don't think Jacoby Brissett can really elevate an offense, obviously. So I am going to take the Bengals minus 7.5, and what I think is going to potentially be an ugly game. Maybe give me a final score like 20-10, and that's how they cover.
There's always a week one upset, and it kind of freaks everyone out.
Mhm.
Have the Bengals won a week one game? Remember last year they lost to the Browns in that like monsoon?
Well, they just can't beat the Browns.
Joe Burrow's first game back since his like wrist ligaments exploded on Thursday Night Football.
Bengals did lose in week 1 to the Steelers, in 2022. And the year they went to the Super Bowl, they won week 1 in that crazy game against the Vikings that went to overtime and all the missed kicks were happening. You remember that? So they won in 2021,
Screw
but
it. I'm changing my
obviously
pick.
lost.
I'm taking the Patriots to cover. I don't, they
Wow.
haven't.
There you
They
go.
need to prove to me that they're capable of not
Fair enough.
looking like
All right.
ass the first week of the season.
Next game we got here, we have this is a good one. For reasons. The Tennessee Titans are on the road to take on the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams, his first NFL start. Bears are 4-point favorites. I think there's a stat where first overall pick quarterbacks that start week 1, they haven't won in like God knows how many years. It's been a long time. They don't really
Well, not
cover.
many first overall pick quarterbacks go
That's what I'm saying. They're not on a good
inherit an
team. They're
offense like the Bears have on paper.
exactly. So I'm taking the Bears -4. I quietly think the Titans are going to really suck this year. It's not even an indictment on Will Levis. It's just I don't love what they have to offer. They got the retirement home, like Tony Pollard, DeAndre Hopkins isn't healthy.
Yeah,
Like it's
DeAndre
just
Hopkins has a torn MCL.
right, and it's like, Calvin Ridley I do think is nice. I honestly think he's probably like a perfect fit for like an irrelevant Titans team. He's gonna put up the most irrelevant like 1,100-yard season known to man this upcoming year. So I think that kind of fits the bill perfectly. You have a split backfield between Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, just rather uninspiring.
Well, no,
Um,
hold on now. Tajay Spears, I
he's
think,
a solid. I think he's a
is
solid
better
player.
than Tony Pollard. He should be starting, not
They're
Tony
gonna they're gonna
Pollard.
split they're gonna split. They
Yeah,
paid
well,
Pollard, man. They're gonna rock with him a little bit. So yeah, I'm taking the Bears. I think Caleb Williams is gonna be one of those rookie quarterbacks that bucks a lot of the trends. Like, a lot of the, "Oh, rookie quarterbacks never win in this spot. They never play well in this spot." And I think he's gonna be a guy that plays well in the spots that rookie quarterbacks usually fail in. And I think he's gonna get that started very quickly with a week 1 win and a week 1
But
cover
Bill
at
Belichick
home.
doesn't think so.
I know he doesn't think so. There's a lot of boomer takes coming from the former New England guys recently. Belichick and Brady showing their age a bit. Um,
What on
but
Caleb Williams specifically?
it's generally like, what
Well,
did
you see
Brady
that thing
say?
with
It's a
Brady. Wasn't the
travesty that rookie quarterbacks play so much. Basically, he's like, he thinks it's tragic that they don't sit more. And he's like, I sat. And it's like, dude, you were a sixth round pick.
yeah, you
Like,
sat
obviously you
because you were
sat.
playing behind a Pro Bowl
You
quarterback and Drew
Like, he
Bledsoe.
forgets that he's, like, the most special case of all time, that he was a sixth round pick that, in order to stay in the league, needed to be so perfect up here and know everything that was ever going on just to hold the roster spot. And then, the injury gave him the opportunity and obviously the
Well,
career.
in Brady's
But
mind, he
Christ,
thought.
Tom,
I mean,
like,
I watched the Brady Six, and like the thing
mhm,
about it. Now, obviously, it's kind of a very pro Brady stance. It was kind of ridiculous. He fell to the sixth round in that draft when the reasoning behind him falling was because they had Drew Henson, who was like Mister like all Michigan athlete, and then they were
mhm,
the chancellor of the university told the coach that they needed to play Henson, like they have to play Henson in games,
yeah,
and every time he played, he just wasn't good. But
yeah.
anyway,
Regardless, Bears
regardless,
-4 is my pick.
I'm doing Bears -4 as well. Gosh, I think DJ Moore is going to have a huge season for the Bears. I think
I sure hope so, man.
this is easily the most talented quarterback he's had. Like when he played with the Panthers, he had like old Cam Newton, or like literally like physically destroyed Cam Newton, and then the
Mhm,
schlock they brought out after that.
yeah.
Um, I know you're not a big DeAndre Swift guy, but they do have depth at running back. Like Rashawn Johnson, I think can be good. Um,
DeAndre Swift is also clearly, as shown last year, in an offense that has exuding talent at multiple positions, can, be effective because you're not asking him to do a lot. Like, it was, what was that preseason big play that Williams like flicked out the shovel screen pass to him that he turned into a big play, but then he just kind of fell. Like, he just kind of like tripped over. Like, it's just kind of the epitome of DeAndre Swift. Like, he was untouched for so many yards, and then right when it's time to elevate the play and make it something more than just the average running back can do, he just kind of tripped over his own feet and fell. Um,
yeah,
so listen, he's going to get some opportunity. He's going to get the ball in open space. There's going to be some big holes to run through, and he's going to look solid. And listen, I think it's. I honestly think it's a solid. I think it's a good fit in that Bears offense. So
yeah. I think for the Titans too, like defensively, they picked up Ernest Jones from
yeah,
the Rams. They
yeah.
picked up L'Jarius Sneed. They have Al Shire, the linebacker, who I kind of wanted
Hmm.
the Eagles to sign.
I did as well.
And like,
Maybe it won't matter. We have Zach Bond.
yeah, but like they have so many new players, new coaches. The Bears have more continuity in a
Mhm.
certain extent, at least on defense. And like, yeah, I don't. This is yeah. Give me the Bears. I'm taking.
It's a yeah. All right. Next game we have. This is actually my. This is my upset of the week here.
Oh boy, I kind of like this too.
The
I'm
Arizona Cardinals are on the road to take on the Buffalo Bills. This line is at 6.5. Bills favored. Listen, we've been talking about how this could potentially just be a down year for the Bills, because it's really,
Man, are we
you know,
trusting Gannon against Josh Allen?
it's not where this game is won.
Oh, this is gonna be
Allen
a shootout.
Allen is kind of, he's not by himself, but the receivers are rather poor. I like Dalton Kincaid. I like James Cook a lot. Obviously, Allen is great, but their wide receivers, they lost they lost both guys. You say what you want about either one of them, but you
Now, Gabe
lost
Davis
both
is
of them.
not good.
They did, yes, but they did lose Gabe Davis. They traded away Stephon Diggs. Um, you know, they're rocking with rookies and Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel. It's just uninspiring a
Actually,
bit.
so this is my take. I think offensively, the Bills are going to be good. Where I don't think they're going to be good is that defense. They've lost guys. Matt Milano already got hurt already. He's a key
Mhm.
part of their defense. Damar Hamlin is starting at safety, Michael. That's my point. Like defensively, they're just trash, and they're going to have to get into all these shootouts.
Right, and I worry that they might just not have the firepower at times to keep up. Like, if
Well,
you gotta push the ball.
remember my hot take to start the year? I think Josh Allen, like every year, there's a quarterback that just gets hurt.
You said this is the Allen injury
This
year.
might be the year where Allen's just doing way too much.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I think it gets started early. I'm taking the Cardinals plus 6.5. I believe in the Cardinals to actually win the game. I look at the Arizona Cardinals, their defense, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I actually think Gannon did a pretty decent job with it last year, all things considered. I think he got more creative, and you talk about disguising looks like that Cowboy game. I kind of think that's what was going on. Where I'm high on the Cardinals is their offense. I like it. I like Kyler Murray. I've been a Murray guy, and when he got back from injury last year, their rushing offense became very, very, very good. Just his, I guess, threat in the passing game and in the running game with his own legs really opened things up for James Conner, who ended up having a strong, strong second half of the season. Obviously, they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., who I think is going to be a very, very exceptional wide receiver. Um, pair that with Trey McBride, who looked good once Kyler Murray got back as well. Um, I think Kyler Murray being healthy and you have some new toys to play with and, what you got, I'm taking the Cardinals.
All right, Michael. I have the Bills depth chart pulled up.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in hearing some of the names that will be starting today for the Buffalo Bills on defense?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the Bills are on a base 4-3 defense. As you know, like they've same guys as they kind of have before. They've started last year. The defensive line I think is good. Greg Rousseau,
Mhm.
D tackles Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones. Former Eagle Casey Toohill is a backup defensive end. At the
Mhm.
other defensive end spot, they have AJ Epinesa, and then backing him up is the psychopath Von Miller.
Mhm.
Should be in prison,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Here's our linebackers. At weak side linebacker is Dorian Williams.
Mm.
At the Mike linebacker spot is Terrell Bernard.
Mhm.
Starting at strong side linebacker, Michael, is a guy you mentioned earlier in the show, Nicholas Morrow. And here are their starting corners. Their starting corners are Christian Benford, who I believe was he on the Ravens last year?
I forget.
I mean,
Regardless.
I've heard of him before. Is he good? I don't know.
Mm. Yeah, the
Well,
Bills,
he's starting.
regardless, Bills defense is
Well,
uninspiring.
oh yeah, and the other starting corner is Rasul Douglas,
Rasul's nice.
and their safeties are Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp.
Anyways,
They're getting
so
it cooked today. They're getting cooked, straight
you're
up cooked.
you're
They're
taking
getting.
Arizona then?
I am taking Arizona. This is gonna be a close game. I
Yeah.
could. What if, dude? What if like the Cardinals are driving and like Kyler does this? I don't know. Kyler forgets to spike it or something.
Like
Everyone
like that,
loves
they'll
dumping
lose.
on Kyler. It's kind
Yeah.
of fun. They're like
Yeah.
2K NBA 2K is out. He's not focused or whatever, some nonsense. He's a big gamer. Kyler Murray, big gamer.
Yes. So, okay. Next game we have on the list is I think is the game of the week, perhaps in the early slate. It is the Indianapolis Colts playing host to the Houston Texans. The Texans are 3-point road favorites in Indy. Battle of a couple of young quarterbacks. I'm excited to see Anthony Richardson back out there. I'm excited. You know, I thought he looked good until obviously he got injured. I think the Colts offense under Shane Steichen runs well, and I'm intrigued to see it back again with their young quarterback. Texans, they're getting an opportunity to show off their new shiny toys. Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, with their already, very fun receiving core, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I'm going to take the Colts. There's something about a home divisional underdog early in the season that tends to cover and tends to whatever. And I think it lands here. I think the Colts have a pretty good shot to win today. And I don't think it would be an indictment on the Texans. I just think this is, week one on the road against a strong divisional opponent. I just think that's a hard spot. I think it's a hard spot to win. And I can't, I don't think I can kill the Texans for potentially losing today. I don't think that shows like if they're not that good or whatever. So yeah, I'm taking the Colts.
I'm gonna take the Colts as well. My thing with the Texans is going to be, we talk about C.J. Stroud. Obviously, he's expected to take a huge leap. He didn't throw a lot of interceptions last year. I could kind of, I think with their offense now being very much one-sided in the passing game, they picked up Joe Mixon in the offseason. I'm not really high on Joe Mixon, Michael. I know he's just old. He's not like Derrick Henry where he's just like a monster. Like he's a beast. He can still plow through people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious to see if Stephon Diggs is going to screw up their like passing game from the perspective of last year. It was very much like Nico Collins going deep and then Tank Dell like working the middle of the field. Now you have Diggs where it's like you got to have in the back of your head, like if he's not getting the ball, is he going to be a problem?
Yeah, you got to see. So,
and I wouldn't be surprised if like there's going to be a play where like he was the primary, but they go to like Dell and it's like a touchdown. He's just like pouting on the sidelines.
I guess, yeah, we'll have to wait.
I'll take the Texans. I'm not sorry. I'm taking the Colts. Excuse me. Taking
okay.
Indy. Oh God.
Next game we have the AFC West, cream of the crop here. The Las Vegas Raiders are in Los Angeles to take on Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. Chargers are 3-point favorites. This is one of those games that I think I would take like an alternate spread of. Well, yes, I think I'd take an alternate spread of Vegas. Like I would take Vegas at plus like 6.5, something like that. Like I do think it's going to be close, but I think the Chargers are going to win. I don't know. I kind of believe in Jim Harbaugh. I believe in his ability to, whatever reason, perform above expectations. And
I believe in Connor Stallions.
Right. Like, so I'm going to take the Chargers to win like a greasy, low scoring, feels like low stakes game, all that sort of stuff. Like, it's just going to feel such like an unimportant game. And I'm going to take the Chargers to cover and win -3. Taking the Chargers.
I want to go with the Raiders here. Because that Charger team, when you look at that roster, dude, like, they have them and the Patriots. mean, shoot, even like I don't know, man. They're just so bad. And like, listen, I'm not gonna be touting the Raiders, but I don't know, man. They played inspired football for Antonio Pierce. I'm not saying the Chargers are gonna be uninspired with Jim Jim Harbaugh, but I wouldn't be surprised if Herbert only throws like 20 passes in this game, and we're gonna be like, what the hell are we doing?
Listen, I said before the year that this will be the year that Herbert throws the least amount of passes, but gets the most amount of credit. Um, but it'll be interesting to see. I don't know how to feel about him with the injury like for the season. So that's why I am a bit hesitant on him just for 2024.
Yeah, and like they're I don't know, man. Like I just feel like listen, we know about Minshew. We know Minshew's MO is F it, chucking the ball, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of fits the whole Raider like mystique.
It's
Like,
fitting. It fits their vibe for
mentality.
right now. Yeah.
Like Devontae Adams is going to be targeted like 20 times in this game.
Right.
You know.
Mm-hmm. All right. So next game we have feels like this teams play each other week one like way more often than they should. The Denver Broncos are heading to Seattle. The Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites at home. Bo Nix getting the start. I can't express enough how
You
little,
believe?
yeah, how little I believe in Bo Nix. Like I think he's terrible, but maybe I'm wrong. But I do think Sean Payton is being a bit of a boomer, thinking he's very good. I don't know. I'm taking Seattle my 6.5. As much as I don't believe in Bo Nix in Denver, this is also like I do believe in Geno Smith and the Seahawks this year. I think they're going to have a good offense. I think JSN, this will really be the year. Obviously, like I think this is the year he takes over as the wide receiver 2, and Lockett is used a lot more sparingly in situations as opposed to constantly. And I think by the year's end, people will start having conversations if JSN is better than DK Metcalf. Not anything bad about Metcalf, but just how good I think Jackson Smith and Jigba's going to be. So I'm taking Seattle minus 6.5 to get a nice strong home victory to start the year.
Well, you mentioned you're excited for the Seahawks offense. Can I mind if I throw something out there for you that I think is very worth noting? So we can question Sean Payton if he's lost it. I don't know. He thinks he's like he carries himself in the same vein as Bill Parcells.
You think
his mentor.
Yeah.
The Seahawks have a new offensive coordinator. His name's Ryan Grubb. Ryan Grubb was the offensive coordinator for the Washington Huskies for the past couple years. Before that, he was the offensive coordinator of Fresno State. Are you kind of picking up where I'm going with this, Michael?
College guy.
College guys do not have a good track record schematically in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Cliff Kingsbury is a very good example of this. To sum up Cliff Kingsbury's offensive scheme, I'll quote Kyler Murray. The schemes are shit.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be a McVay guy. This guy, Ryan Grubb is... He coached at Fresno State. Michael, like, is he going to come in?
Listen, the Huskies were good, man.
They don't play defense in the Pac-12, Michael. If he coached it like, I don't know, Alabama, then maybe I'd be a little more lenient on this. But
no, I understand.
Like, come on, dude. Like,
so you're taking Denver.
I'm taking Denver. Listen,
go.
dude. I don't trust. I could see Bo Nix being like literally like lucking himself into a good game today.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, they're going to be pounding the football with Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin.
I have to say, it's very uninspiring, but
well, I'm not inspired by.
No, I understand you're not.
By basically enough. Some dude who had Michael Penix throw the ball 80 times a game to a bunch of 5-star wide receiver
Roma
recruits.
Dunze.
Jalen, like, yeah, dude, like, I don't, like,
Yeah.
come on, man.
So next game we got here, we have the Washington Commanders on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucks are 3.5-point favorites. This is another game that I despise. I don't want to be near it. I don't want to watch it really. I don't want to. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen because I'm pretty low on the Bucks. I think this year. I do think Tampa is going to take a step back without Dave Canales. Yeah, I'm just uninspired.
Let's see who the new OC is for the Buck. I'm sorry, keep talking, Michael.
Yeah, so I'm just uninspired. And then I look to the other side and I see the Washington Commanders, to which I'm also uninspired. I think they have less talent. I think they have one of the least inspiring
Whoa!
rosters.
May I bring something up about the
Yeah,
new
go
offensive
ahead.
coordinator, Liam Cohen?
Mhm.
He is a Sean McVay guy.
Is Baker Mayfield? I don't know. Whatever.
He coached
Anyways,
Baker
he
Mayfield
did coach Baker.
when Baker needed had like 3
It was
days
practice
notice.
squad Baker. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I don't know, man. We'll see with that. But go
Yeah, we'll
ahead.
see. I look at Washington and I'm just like, yeah, also uninspired. I do feel like Jaden Daniels is going to be one of those guys that I think some games is going to look like really good. Like I think he's going to run well a few games and those games he's slinging it and on time and whatever. And I don't like this is a
Who
good
does he have to
spot for
sling
that
it
to
to?
happen. That's what I'm saying, like Terry, and that's it. Um,
You're not a believer of Luke
Zach Ertz.
McCaffrey?
I kind of am, but like regardless, I'm gonna take Tampa minus 3.5. I don't feel good about it though. I'm just kind of doing it because they're the better team, but I really don't feel great.
I don't feel great either about this game, but I do feel like, I mean, Emmanuel Forbes potentially on Mike Evans.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not good if you're
Yeah.
the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I do think the Commanders. I think it's like a tie for me between the Commanders and the Chargers for like worst roster in the NFL.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm taking the Bucks. I think I couldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised if like the Bucks have like a good game and they win, and then the Saints lose, and then it's like, oh my god, the Bucks could. We underrated the Bucks.
Yeah. All right. Next game we have. I think this is a strange line. So the Cowboys are going to Cleveland to play the Browns. Obviously, Dak just got paid. Jerry Jones loves the attention right before kickoff of week 1, of course, is when the Dak extension gets announced. Perfect to just talk about it right before the game start. I mean, it
It's
could
probably a
not be
bad
more
time to
obvious.
give him the extension. What I'm about to say, but go ahead.
I mean, I just think it's Jerry wanting to be in the spotlight. It's his favorite pastime. I don't know, man. Like, do you truly believe in your heart of hearts that the Cowboys should be underdogs today?
Yeah,
Okay, fair enough. I don't. I think not that they should be big favorites, but I think they should be like a point or a point and a half point favorites. Like I don't know, like I know the Browns defense is good and I believe in it, but I think their offense might kind of blow. I don't know. Like the offense was bad until Joe Flacco got up off his couch and started slinging that MFR down the field and they just were big play, chunk play the entire way down the field. You have no Nick Chubb, and the creep is back. Deshaun Watson's playing. Like I think Deshaun Watson blows. Like from what I saw last year, he sucked, and I just don't justify how bad that Browns offense is to be a favorite at like against a team like the Cowboys. So
would you like me to explain why the
yeah,
Cowboys are an underdog? So the Cowboys today. So last season, the Cowboys had Tyler Biadasz as their starting center. He
mm-hmm,
was. A lot of people thought he was the best center in the NFL,
mm-hmm,
or at least in the NFC, not named Jason Kelsey.
right.
Right? Okay. They lost him to the. He's now on the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Tyron Smith, no longer in Dallas, was
A Jet.
been the blindside protector for Dak for
His
his
whole career.
entire career.
Mm-hmm.
He's now on the Jets. The Cowboys are starting 2 rookies today at the 2 most important positions on the offensive line: center and left tackle.
You're onto something here.
And if you don't think Myles Garrett right now is going like this,
Licking his chops. Yep.
he might, like, if you're like the Cowboys, like, this is like this is a social media like nuclear bomb about to go off in the
Mm-hmm.
memes of people crapping on Dak. Dak signs a monster contract. Would I rather pay Dak Prescott $60 million versus paying Trevor Lawrence $53 million? Yes, I would.
Would you rather pay Dak $60 million? The real question is, would you rather pay Dak $60 million, or would you rather try to find another quarterback in the offseason?
How?
How is your question?
Draft one? Yeah, you have to draft one.
What are the Cowboys? That's my point. So if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you're picking between giving Dak $60 million or drafting one / trying to trade for a guy. Like that's my point. Your options were paying Dak or starting over. So
But the fact, so yeah, they're starting.
you make a good
Like,
point. Browns
they
defense is
have no
ferocious.
run game. They have no run game, really, right? And I just think back to when they didn't have Tyron Smith and Tyler Biadasz when they played in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go for them?
That was ugly. No, listen, John, you're making compelling arguments and good points.
I
And
mean, right now for the Cowboys offensive line, I mean, it's Zach Martin, who we know,
Mhm.
all pro, gonna be in Canton most
Monday, yeah, for
likely.
sure.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
you got Tyler Guyton starting at left tackle, Tyler Smith starting at left guard. What a good year. Cooper Beebe at center, Zach Martin, and then Terrence Steele at the right tackle position. It's definitely not the prettiest iteration
this is
of.
probably the worst possible like scenario for the Cowboys to just have, like, we're gonna have 2 rookies. We're going
Mhm.
for it all this year, Michael. We're gonna start 2 rookies against the statistically the best defense in the NFL last year.
So I think I can say that you are taking the Browns at home -2.5.
I am taking the Browns at home, laying the 2.5, and plus this is a revenge game for one Amari Cooper.
Who's actively trying to leave Cleveland.
Well, I don't think he's
But
actively trying to leave Cleveland. They're trying to, like, get Brandon. They don't want to pay him.
yeah, no, and so okay. And it's you make a very good argument. It's very fair. I do think this game might be a little lower scoring than usual, which does clearly favor the Browns with their lack of offense. But I do think that the Cowboys are capable of cooking just enough, and I think as underdogs, I do believe in them to. I think they're gonna win. I so strongly do not believe in the Browns offense. Like at least as long as Watson's a quarterback. So I'm
They were
taking the
5-0
Cowboys.
with him as their starter, so no matter how, or 5
Like
and
I know, but God, it was such the greasiest 5-0. Like
I mean, the Cowboys to my point. I mean, the Cowboys got beat by the Pastronaut last year.
what were their wins with Watson? It was
Against the Bengals week 1.
yeah, I mean Bengals put up 3 points. The Titans game where the Titans also put up 3 points and then they beat was Watson quarterbacking the Niner game?
No, it was Temple's
It
own
was oh my
PJ
gosh,
Walker.
PJ like
That's my point. Who cares who the quarterback is?
yeah.
It's just when it gets to the playoffs, it's the problem. That's my
Yeah. Yeah,
point.
listen, it's fair. It's fair. I'm still gonna stick with Dallas, but you know, you've got
And
me to
plus,
believe in the long game.
Cowboy fan delusion is like, oh, Jalen Hurts looked really bad in Brazil. They barely won, and now they're going to play the Browns, and the creep is going to play like shit, and they're still going to lose.
Yeah. All right. So we're on to the Sunday night. A good Sunday night game. Good on the NFL. The Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions get together in Detroit. These teams met for a playoff game last year. It was a very, very good game. The Rams are 4.5-point underdogs on the road. I disagree. I don't like that line. Not a fan of it. I'm taking the Rams to cover the 4.5. I think that's too much. I think it should be 3. And given me the extra point and a half, I'm gonna take the Rams as a little courtesy. Like, I think there's a chance they win today. I do. Um, I do believe in the Lions because they kept Ben Johnson as the OC, but I don't know. I think this is gonna be a tight game. Feels like a game decided by a field goal. Feels like a game that could also be decided 27-23, and that half a point comes through for the Rams. So I'm taking the Rams on Sunday night to cover.
I'm going the other way on this. I like the Lions laying the points. I kind of have I think kind of lost in all like Jason Kelsey retiring because he's kind of like a celebrity now. Aaron Donald retired this offseason.
Yes,
Rams
he did.
I know you don't. A lot of Eagles fans just don't like Aaron Donald because of the kind of like the fade that Fletcher Cox had his entire career.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, Aaron Donald never did much against the Eagles, so.
But at the same time, like he was still
he was incredible.
Their best defensive player last year.
Yeah,
like Fletcher Cox was not the Eagles' best defensive player last year. Let's be honest, right?
He was up there.
And the Eagles already have his replacement like cooked up with Jalen Carter.
Right.
The Rams don't have that. The Rams traded away their defensive signal caller a week and a half before the season started. That basically tells me that they think this year is a rebuilding year. And Matthew Stafford is 39 years old. No, I don't think he's 39 years old, but he's but Michael, like last year,
I hear you.
Dude, last year felt like a better version of like when Alex Smith came back from like his leg being mangled, in my opinion. I don't think the Rams are going to be good at all this year. I'm not sold on them. I thought they were last year's like good bad team last year, or bad good team, I guess. Yeah. It was nice that they made the playoffs. This isn't an indictment on Sean McVay. I still think he's one of the best coaches in the league, but you need talent. And the Rams, quite simply, Michael, just don't have a whole heck of a lot of talent on their team. And I don't care how much you can out-scheme or out-cook or whatever. You can't do that. And like Puka Nakua's banged up entering this game, and now it's like, oh, we can eat Cooper Kupp. He's finally healthy. I could see him putting up numbers. But listen, Michael, like I think with the Lions, it's gonna be a heavy dose of David Montgomery up the middle, and Ben Johnson knows how to cook up with Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is gonna have a monster season. They have a lot invested in him. I could see it being 38. I think it could be a blowout, in my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope it's not, just for the sake of a good night game, but fair. All right, Monday night, final game of the week. A lot of storylines. Niners cleaned up pretty much all their issues that they were having, except I guess Christian McCaffrey's he is questionable. I'm sure he's going to play, but the Niners are 4-point favorites at home against the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers is going to hope to make it past 4 snaps this year to open up the season. The Jets.
Right, keep going.
The Jets are. I think people agree. They have the league's best defense. Pretty ferocious. Their secondary's locked down. Their pass rush is scary. Hassan Reddick, I guess, is like, I don't think he's playing, but there was rumors yesterday that he was going to join the team like today or yesterday, and then go from there. I wouldn't expect him to play anyways. But Breece Hall, another year of being healthy. Garrett Wilson finally should get his quarterback. I'm taking the Jets +4. I think that's a sneaky spot, where I do think the Niners in general might just have, I think, a down year. Listen, it's a lot to
Whoa,
go.
whoa, 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 whoa! I said this, and you were like, I'm like scheming in my head, and you were like, kind of like, what is he
What
cooking
are you
right now?
cooking? Listen, I'm spinning this on trying to logically wrap it as opposed to the hate watch as much as possible. Um, that like you said it. Everyone's thinking it. It's hard, man, to keep going deep playoff run, deep playoff run, deep playoff run. Football's not necessarily the sport where like you just break through. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I don't know. I guess like I feel hockey is probably the perfect sport where you just keep going and going and going, and then you break through and win a championship. Like look at the Vegas Golden Knights, deep playoff run, deep playoff run, deep playoff run. Then they finally broke through and won the cup. Tampa Bay Lightning, same thing. How many times they keep getting bounced before they broke through and won back to back? Washington Capitals kept getting bounced in the second round, then they broke through and finally won the cup. It's just the Florida Panthers made it the cup the year before, they win it this year. It's one of those things that makes sense in hockey. It doesn't happen in football. Teams can keep making it, deep playoff run, and then, like, you almost need to get stopped. You almost need a reset year to kind of get your bearings together and poise yourself for another run, and this isn't to say that the Niners are gonna win, like, 8 games this year and miss the playoffs, but I think that they'll win the division. I don't know if they're gonna be a top 2 seed, and I think they're gonna lose some tight game like, I just not super high on them for the whole season, and I think this is one of those games where you're playing against a good opponent, maybe the things don't bounce your way that they usually have been the last handful of years, so I'm taking the Jets +4.
I'm gonna take, geez. So before I make my pick, and we'll wrap up the show. So McCaffrey's dealing with an ankle injury slash Achilles injury as well. I just pulled up his injury history since he's been playing since college, right?
Mhm,
Christian McCaffrey has had in his career one, let's see, one, two, three, four, five. He's had six soft tissue injuries. Some
mhm,
that he's missed about 17 games in his career due to soft tissue injuries.
mhm,
I don't know if they're being ultra precautious with him, but I feel like if he plays in this game, there is a
mhm,
high probability that he could suffer another soft tissue injury in his ankle, and it might cost him 4 or 5 games. That seems to be his MO with these soft tissue injuries. He misses 4 or 5 games.
yeah,
Um, I'm kind of leaning towards the Jets as well, just because, like, that offense, like, Michael, if they put Jordan Mason in and he plays, a lot of people just assume Jordan Mason's going to feast in that offense. And I'm sure he's
yeah,
going to put up adequate numbers, but there's a huge difference between what Christian McCaffrey means to the 49ers versus what Jordan Mason means to the 49ers.
mhm,
And, like, Debo Samuel kind of looks like he lost a quarter of a step last year. He was
yeah,
banged up as well. There's a reason why they prioritize re-signing Brandon Ayuk as opposed to
right,
just trading him.
yeah,
Is they think he's the future at the wide receiver position, and George Kittle, whatever you want to make, he's been declining the last couple years anyway. I'm in on the 49er fade as well, as you've mentioned before.
mhm,
I'm going to take the Jets. I feel like
alright.
if Rodgers is healthy, I mean, let's be realistic, dude. If Rodgers has a good season, is it
They
safe
should
to
win,
say
like,
he's the
11
comeback
games.
player of the year?
Oh, absolutely. If the Jets make the playoffs, he's winning the award probably. I'd be shocked. He's just the candidate. I guess Burrow if like the Bengals are like a top 2 seed, but yeah, all right. Well, that's our picks, everybody. Week
Well, that's
1
our
is
picks. Hopefully, we
about
can
to
get
be
this
underway.
streaming on
Whatever.
Twitter next week. Back on Twitter once I get my check mark.
45 minutes till kickoff, John. I'm
I
excited.
know. I have to get dressed and get ready to go out.
I gotta go shower. I gotta get ready. Ready to go.
Awesome. Well, everybody, take care. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy your NFL Sunday, week 1.
Yes.